My fascination with the supernatural had led me to many eerie places, but none had intrigued me as much as the whispering woods of Silverlake. When I received an invitation to investigate the area, I was both excited and apprehensive. The woods were notorious for their strange occurrences and whispered legends of spirits that roamed the dense trees. The journey to Silver Lake was long and winding. As I drove through the countryside, the landscape gradually transformed from open fields to thick, ancient woods. The trees seemed to close in around me, their branches interlocking like fingers. By the time I reached the small village of Silver Lake, dusk was setting in, casting long shadows that danced in the fading light. I parked my car near the edge of the village and got out, breathing in the crisp, cool air. The village itself was quaint, with charming cottages and a serene lake at its center. However, there was an underlying tension, a sense of something lurking just beyond the edge of the woods. I checked into a small inn and prepared for my first night of exploration, eager to uncover the secrets of the Whispering Woods. The next morning, I decided to speak with the villagers to gather more information about the woods. As I walked through the narrow streets, I noticed the villagers casting wary glances at the forest. It was clear that the woods held a significant place in their collective consciousness, both feared and respected. I approached an elderly woman who was tending to her garden. Introducing myself, I explained my purpose in visiting Silver Lake. Her eyes widened with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "My name is Agnes," she said. "I've lived here my entire life. The woods, they're not like any other place. People hear whispers, see shadows. Some never return." Agnes shared stories of villagers who had ventured into the woods and were never seen again. She spoke of the whispers that could be heard at night, voices calling out from the darkness. Despite her warnings, my curiosity was piqued. I thanked her for her time and continued to gather stories from other villagers. Each tale was more chilling than the last, reinforcing the eerie reputation of the Whispering Woods. Determined to experience the phenomena for myself, I ventured into the woods that evening. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow through the trees. I followed a narrow path that wound deeper into the forest, my flashlight cutting through the growing darkness. The air was cool and damp, and the silence was almost oppressive. As I walked, I began to hear faint whispers. At first, they were barely audible, like the rustling of leaves. But as I continued, they grew louder, more distinct. The voices seemed to come from all around me, surrounding me in a cacophony of hushed tones. I couldn't make out any words, but the whispers were insistent, almost urgent. I paused, trying to discern the source of the voices. The trees loomed overhead, their branches forming a dense canopy that blocked out the moonlight. The darkness was thick, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Suddenly, I saw a shadowy figure dart between the trees. My heart raced as I tried to follow it, but the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I stood there, my flashlight beam trembling, the whispers growing louder. I knew I was not alone in the Whispering Woods. The next day, I returned to the woods, determined to uncover the truth behind the whispers. This time, I was more prepared, with additional equipment to document my findings. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the whispers began again, but I steeled myself against the fear. I followed a new path, hoping to find some clue to explain the strange occurrences. After hours of wandering, I stumbled upon an old, overgrown cemetery. The gravestones were weathered and covered in moss, some leaning precariously. At the center of the cemetery stood a large, ancient oak tree, its branches spreading wide like a protective canopy. I felt a strange pull towards the tree, as if it held the answers I was seeking. As I approached the tree, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. I noticed carvings on the trunk, symbols that I didn't recognize. I took out my camera and began to document the carvings, hoping to decipher their meaning later. Suddenly, I felt a cold breeze brush against my skin, and the whispers became frantic. I turned to see a figure standing at the edge of the cemetery, watching me. It was a woman, her face pale and eyes hollow. She raised a hand as if beckoning me closer, but then she vanished, leaving me alone with the whispers and the symbols. I returned to the village, my mind racing with questions. I needed to understand the significance of the cemetery and the symbols on the tree. I sought out Agnes, hoping she could shed some light on what I had found. She invited me into her home, her expression serious as I described my discoveries. Agnes listened intently, her face growing pale as I recounted my encounter with the mysterious woman. "The cemetery you found is the resting place of our ancestors," she explained. "The symbols on the tree are part of an old protection ritual meant to keep the spirits at bay. The woman you saw, she was likely one of the restless spirits." Agnes revealed that the villagers had long performed rituals to appease the spirits of the woods. However, in recent years, the rituals had been neglected, and the spirits had grown restless. The whispers were their way of reaching out, seeking to be heard. Agnes urged me to be cautious, warning that the spirits could be unpredictable and dangerous. Determined to help the village and uncover the truth behind the whispers, I decided to perform the ancient ritual. With Agnes's guidance, I gathered the necessary materials, herbs, candles, and sacred symbols. That night, we made our way to the old cemetery, the air thick with anticipation. We arranged the materials around the ancient oak tree, following the instructions passed down through generations. As we began the ritual, chanting the old words, the air seemed to vibrate with energy. The whispers grew louder, surrounding us in a chorus of voices. The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the gravestones. As the ritual progressed, I felt a presence around us, a mix of curiosity and agitation. The ground seemed to tremble, and the air grew colder. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, replaced by a deep, resonant silence. For a moment, everything was still. Then a soft, gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the oak tree, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The ritual was complete, and the spirits seemed to be at rest. In the days following the ritual, the village was calm. The oppressive atmosphere that had hung over Silverlake for so long seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and renewal. The whispers in the woods were gone, and the villagers began to feel safe again. I spent my days documenting the history and legends of the village, ensuring that the knowledge would not be lost. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still amiss. The encounter with the woman in the cemetery haunted me, and I wondered if the ritual had truly appeased all the spirits. One evening, as I walked by the lake, I noticed a figure standing at the water's edge. It was the same woman I had seen in the cemetery, her eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. She seemed to be trying to tell me something, but no words came out. I approached her cautiously, but as I drew closer, she vanished into the mist. I stood there, staring at the spot where she had been, a sense of unease settling over me. The ritual had calmed the spirits, but it seemed there was still one restless soul seeking resolution. Determined to help the restless spirit, I delved deeper into the village's history. I spent hours in the village archives, poring over old documents and records. I learned that the woman I had seen was likely Eliza, a young woman who had lived in the village centuries ago. According to the records, Eliza had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and her body was never found. I spoke with Agnes and other villagers, piecing together Eliza's story. She had been a healer, beloved by the villagers, but she had vanished one night, leaving behind only whispers of her fate. Some believed she had been taken by the spirits of the woods, while others thought she had met a more sinister end. Her disappearance had left a scar on the village, and it seemed her spirit had never found peace. Armed with this new information, I returned to the woods, determined to find Eliza's final resting place and lay her spirit to rest. I followed the old paths, guided by a sense of purpose. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the whispers began again, but this time they felt different, less ominous, more like a plea for help. After hours of searching, I found a secluded clearing deep in the woods. The air was still, and the ground was covered in a thick layer of moss. In the center of the clearing, I saw a small, unmarked grave. I knelt by the grave, feeling a sense of reverence and sadness. This was where Eliza had been laid to rest, forgotten by time, but not by the spirits. I performed a small ritual, lighting candles and offering a prayer for Eliza's soul. As I finished the ritual, a soft, warm light enveloped the clearing. The whispers faded, replaced by a gentle, soothing hum. I felt a presence around me, a sense of peace and gratitude. Eliza's spirit was finally at rest. I returned to the village, my heart lighter than it had been in days. I shared the news with Agnes and the other villagers, and they expressed their gratitude. The oppressive atmosphere that had plagued Silver Lake was gone, replaced by a sense of renewal and hope. The whispers in the woods were no longer a source of fear, but a reminder of the village's rich history and the importance of honoring the past. The village of Silver Lake began to thrive, its people no longer haunted by the past. The woods once feared became a place of reflection and reverence. I stayed in the village for a few more weeks, documenting my experiences and ensuring that the knowledge of the rituals and the history of the Whispering Woods would be preserved. As I prepared to leave, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey to Silver Lake had been challenging and at times frightening, but it had also been rewarding. I had uncovered the truth behind the whispers, helped lay a restless spirit to rest, and witnessed the renewal of a village that had been haunted for centuries. On my last day in Silver Lake, I walked through the village one final time, taking in the sights and sounds. The villagers greeted me warmly, their faces filled with gratitude and hope. As I stood by the edge of the lake, I looked out at the woods, their trees bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. I felt a sense of peace, knowing that the Whispering Woods of Silver Lake would continue to be a place of mystery and wonder, but no longer a source of fear. With a final lingering glance, I turned and walked away, ready for my next adventure.